So I'm going to go over the questions for the second part of the paper, starting on question 10. Okay, so for question 10, the first one is factorize, okay? And we know that with factorizing, we need to put brackets in, but there are brackets there to begin with. So the first thing you have to do is expand it and put together what we've got, okay? So x minus 7 squared, x minus 7 times x minus 7, you're going to get x squared minus 7x minus 7x plus 49. So when you've multiplied out the first bracket, you end up with x squared minus 14x plus 49. Okay, so that's just for the first part. Then we've got to add on for the second bracket, 2 times x is 2x. And then be careful of the next bit, because you've got the plus and the minus. So that's going to end up with minus 14. Okay, so you've simplified it all. Then let's combine what we've got. We've got a minus 14x plus 2x. So you end up with x squared minus 12x. And then you've got plus 49 minus 14, which is plus 35. So if you go back to the question, when it says factorize, we're then factorizing the quadratic. Okay, so thinking ahead, factors of 35, 1, 35, 5 and 7. Now 5 and 7 are going to end up making a 12, but you're going to find that they're both minuses, and I'll explain why in a minute, okay? The minus 5 times the minus 7 will give you the plus 35, and then when you add them, minus 5x minus the 7x will give you the minus 12x, okay? So that's all you have to do, because it says factorize. You just want the answer with the brackets in, okay? Now, part B is another one where we've got to factorize, okay? There aren't any brackets at the start, so you've got to take it as it is. So first of all, look for a highest common factor of 12 and 27. Now, 12 and 27 are both multiples of 3. So I'm going to take out 3. And then in the bracket, I've got a 4x squared. Just check, if you times that by 3, you'll end up with 12x squared minus 9y squared. And again, check, 3 times 9y squared will be 27y squared. And some of you might think, great, that's the answer. But for 3 marks, it's got to be a little bit more than that, okay? And it's being able to spot that within this bracket, you've got a square term minus a square term. So what do I mean by that? Well, 4 is a square number, 9 is a square number, x squared is a square number, and y squared is a square number. So how do we work out the answer? Well, it's a special type. So we've still got 3 outside, but you split it up into 2 brackets, okay? What is the square root of 4x squared? Just do my thinking down here. What is the square root of 4x squared? Well, that would be 2x. And what is the square root of 9y squared? That would be 3y. So this is a special type of factorising. When it's a square minus a square, in one bracket, it will be 2x minus 3y. and in the second bracket 2x plus 3y. Okay, so that would be your final answer. Question 11, make x the subject of the formula. Now, at the moment, you've got a term in x there, and you've got an x on that side. So you've got one on the left-hand side, and you've got one on the right-hand side. So the first thing you need to do is expand the brackets. Expand the bracket. So we're multiplying out. So on the left-hand side, you've got a times x, which is ax, minus a times b, which is ab. On the right-hand side, x times c is xc, minus x times d, sorry, I didn't put the c in, x times d, which is minus xd. And now you've got 3 terms with x in. Okay, and really you want to get them all on the same side. So in order for this to end up on the other side, to join the other two, I'm going to take away ax on both sides. Okay, and the reason we do that is because this will disappear. Minus ab is left. xc minus xd minus ax. And then once you've got all the terms on the same side, in this case they're on the right hand side, minus ab stays the same. You've got to factorize because there's an x in each term. Take x out and you have c minus d minus a. Again, if you check, by multiplying, x times c is xc, x times d, yeah, you can check by multiplying. So we're nearly there. We want x on its own. Now to get x on its own, you've got to divide both sides by c minus d minus a. C minus d minus a. Okay, and we do that because that cancels out, and you've got your answer. So I'm just going to write it up here. X is equal to minus ab all over c minus d minus a. Question 12a and b. Okay, we've got a circle and we can see there's a sector as part of our circle. So what does it tell us? The radius of the circle is 10 centimeters. So that would be 10. This would be 10. The area of the shaded sector is 65 centimeters squared. So we know the area is 65 centimeters squared. Calculate the size of a EOF. Okay, EOF is that angle there. I'm going to call it theta. Okay, now in order to work out the sector area, is theta over 360 times, well, the whole circle is pi r squared. So basically what you're doing is a fraction of the whole circle. But some of this we know. For example, we know that the sector area is 65, and that's equal to theta over 360 times pi times 10 squared. And all you've done there is substitute in what you know. But we can tidy that up a little bit, okay? So I'm just going to do the rest of it up here. I've got 65 on the left-hand side. I've got theta, sorry, I got theta over 360 times 100 pi. All I've done there is worked out the 10 squared. I could cancel out one of the noughts with one of the noughts there. So, okay, so I simplify it again. I've got 65 equal to theta over 36 times 10 pi. Now, what we need to do is to get theta on its own. So it's a bit like solving an equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply each side by 36. So 36 times 65. And then they cancel out. Okay? And this will give you 2340 equal to theta times 10 pi. To get theta on its own, divide both sides by 10 pi. And of course, on the calculator, you can work that out because they cancel out. So when you work that out on the calculator, theta to the nearest degree is 74 degrees. Okay? Right, so we know that theta is 74 degrees and we've got to work out the arc length. Now for the arc length, it's theta over 360 times pi d. Again, it's a fraction of the whole circumference. And the circumference is pi times the diameter, so we just want the fraction. Okay, so arc length, I just put AL, is theta, which is 74 over 360, times pi, times, now be careful, if the radius is 10, then the diameter is going to be 20. And so with this, you're just going to work that out on a calculator. So the arc length is 13 centimeters. Okay. If you left this answer to decimal places, then this might be slightly different. But I think what's really important there is the method. And then number 13, circle either true or false for each of these graphs, okay? So I'm gonna put a little bit of explanation over here. This is definitely true because it's definitely a negative cuboid, negative cubic graph, okay? A positive cubic graph would be something like that. You've got your negative 4, and when x is 0, if y is minus x cubed minus 2, okay, which is the equation, y ends up being minus 2. So at 0, it's likely that that would be minus 2. So that's correct. The second one is false, because when x is 0, if you put x to be 0 in there, y is 0. Well, that's nonsense because it doesn't go through the origin. The next one, x to the minus 1, is the same as y equal to 1 over x. And that's definitely the graph of y equal to 1 over x. It's got two distinct parts. For the last one, when x is 0, y is 4. Well, if you look at 0, 4 isn't on the graph, so that's definitely false. Thank you. Okay, so for question 14, use the quadratic formula to solve 3x minus 1 all squared equal to x, 2x plus 3 plus 7. Now then, just the fact that it says 2 decimal places implies that you've got to use the formula. But the other thing you've got to realise, to use the formula, it's got to be of the type your x squared, your x terms, and then your constant. And at the moment, it doesn't look like that, okay? So on the left-hand side, you've got to multiply out the 3x minus 1 squared, okay? So I'll just use a little grid method. 9x squared minus 3x minus 3x, and don't forget it'll be plus 1 because of the minus 1 and the minus 1, okay? Then on the right hand side, so So this is your left-hand side, this is your right-hand side. You will have 2x squared plus 3x plus 7, okay? But the left-hand side equal to the right-hand side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to combine them, okay? So if you remember, this is your left-hand side, which is your 9x squared minus 6x plus 1. And it's equal to the right-hand side, 2x squared plus 3x plus 7. Okay, so I want to get the x squared. I'm going to move everything over to this side. So if I wanted to get the 2x squared, I've got to take that off both sides. Okay, so I'll end up with 7x squared minus 6x plus 1 equal to 3x plus 7. That's why we do it, because get rid of that. I'm going to take away 3x on both sides. Because it'll disappear from there, and I'm left with 7x squared minus 6 minus 3 is minus 9x plus 1 equal to 7. I need to take away 7 on both sides. 7x squared minus 9x plus 1 minus 7 minus 6 equals to 0. And then you can use your quadratic formula. Okay, your a value is the coefficient of x squared, which is 7. Your b value is the coefficient of x, which is minus 9. And c is whatever left over, which is your minus 6. So in your formula, you will have x equal to minus b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's put in what we've got. Minus b is minus 9, okay, which is plus 9, plus or minus. B squared is minus 9 squared is 81, minus 4, a is 7, and c is minus 6. All over 2a, which is 2 times 7. Okay, now that will give you 9 plus or minus 249. Okay, all over 14. And this is where you separate it out, because one solution is x equal to 9 plus the square root of 249 over 14. And the other solution is x equal to 9 minus the root of 249 over 14. Okay, and before I give you the answers, remember now, when we get to there, that's why you split up. So there's a plus on one and a minus on the other. Everything is exactly the same. Okay, so the two answers are, when you do that on the calculator, the two answers are x equal to 1.77 or x equal to minus 0.48. Okay, question 15 is to do with similar shapes. Okay, now all you know is that you've got shape one that's got 700 centimeters squared and the other one is 140. So I always like to write on the smaller one first. So for shape one, 140 centimeters squared. Shape two is 700 centimeters squared. Okay, now from that you can work out the area scale factor. How do I know its area? Well, the units, the centimetres squared are a giveaway, but it does tell you in the question. So you can work out the area scale factor. In other words, how did 140 become 700. Well, you do 700 divided by 140, which is 5. So if the area scale factor is 5, the length scale factor is the square root of it. And because it's not a square number, just leave it as root 5. Why do we need the length scale factor? Because we're calculating the perimeter of the larger shape. Okay, so the shape 1 perimeter is 83 centimeters. So the larger shape, the perimeter will be 83 times the scale factor root 5, and the answer is 185.6 centimeters to 1 decimal place. So it's all about finding the scale factor first. Okay, question 16 is a 9-pointed star with centre O. Each side of the star is of length x centimeters. So you're working with a regular polygon. The distance from the centre to every inner vertex is 7 centimeters, and the distance to every outer vertex is 10. And you can see that on the diagram, that's 10, that's 7, and that's your x on the outside, okay? Calculate the perimeter of the star. So basically, we need to work out the outside length. But if we can work out one length, all you've got to do is times it by 18, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so what I did was I isolated the triangle. I took it out. That's x centimeters, that's 7. That's the centre, that's 10. Okay, and I labelled it A, B, C. Okay, and because we're working out x, well, you can't work it out just based on two sides. You need an angle. Now, fortunately, we know that this angle, okay, is going to be 360. Theta is 360 divided by 18. And the reason is, if I just connect that on the diagram, there are 9 of these in the whole shape. I can show you roughly. Okay, there are 9 of those shapes. So the double angle there would be 40 degrees. Basically, if you divide by 9, you're going to get 40. If you divide by 18, theta is 20 degrees. Okay, so how is that going to help me? Well, if I put in 20 there, okay, I've labelled it A, B, C, but I'm going to label the lengths A opposite the big A, little b there, and little c there. Now, if I'm working out little a, I'm going to use the cosine rule. We have to do that because we only know one angle. A squared, b squared, plus c squared minus 2bc cos A. And we know everything there. Okay, so it'll be 7 squared okay, so it'll be 7 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 7 times 10 times cos of the angle, which is 20 degrees. Now, when you put that in, you will end up with, once you find the square root of it then, because Working that out is a squared. When you work at the square root, it will be 4.18 centimetres. So what you've just worked out is one of the x's. So the perimeter is 4.18 times 18, which is 215.5. Sorry. It's 75.24 centimetres. Okay, perimeters of length will just be centimetres. Okay, so for the area of the star, let's have a look at that section again. 10, 7, that's 20. And remember, there are 18 of these. Okay, if you look back at the other picture, there were 18 of them. Now, basically, if you know two sides and the included angle, you can use the formula for the area is a half AB sine C. But what that really means is the two sides and the included angle. Okay? You can substitute in half times 7 times 10 times the sine 20 degrees. Okay? But for the whole shape, times 18, and you can put it straight into the calculator, and the answer is 215.5 centimetres squared.